What up guys, Shredded Otaku here. So today I'm just going to go over some stuff that I picked up in the month of August. And I had to wait until a lot of it showed up in the mail before I could make this video. So that's why it's not in August. But these are my August pickups that I added to the collection. Like I've said before, I'm really big on figures, so I guess I'll start there. I'm a big kid deep down. And the first thing that I saw was I follow this dude named Wario64 on Twitter, and he's always posting like when things go live or when they fall back down to retail price. This particular Metroid figure made by Jax was up in price up to like $45-50 at one point. And I saw this in the store. I remember a few times and kind of slept on it. And then it always kind of gnawed at me whenever I saw it just come across on like recommended to you on my Amazon page, just because it's such a unique figure. It's like this giant, it's a giant Metroid. And I haven't unboxed it. I don't know if I will, honestly, just because I'm a weirdo. But it's just like this big, it's like a really massive Metroid. I did watch another person unbox it who says that it's just like hard plastic. It looks like a gel almost. If it was like a gel, I think that would be a little more neat. But I'm a huge Metroid fan, and this thing's really cool. And it's definitely a collectible item. So when I saw it go live for fall down to the $15 retail price, I was like, hey, why not? Outside of that, we've started seeing some reprints of one of my favorite, more niche video game collecting items, which are the Amiibos. With Splatoon 3 on the rise, I think that the Cali and Mari Amiibo, actually after I read this packaging, I realized that it was like a pun on calamari. It's taken me this long to figure that out. But the Cali Mari Amiibo got a reprint, and these guys were like 100 or more resale value up until this reprint. I picked these guys up for $25, which was really cool. And again, why not? I'm, a huge collector when it comes to Amiibo, so I had to pick a couple up. I probably will unbox this one. The other one is like inside of a protective case that's also inside of a box in the closet, because I'm that guy. But always cool to pick these things up. I just, you can watch my other video where I rant a lot more about how much I love Amiibos, but it just feels like Christmas every time I see them. Just like the packaging. I don't know, there's just so much love and care that goes into these. Even though I've never been the biggest Splatoon fan, I do think that with the third one, it's really gonna knock it out of the park in terms of what I think Nintendo should have for an online multiplayer game. So I'm all in there, and I'm really trying to complete the Splatoon set, despite how expensive they've all become. And I'm hoping they do like a full reprint. My hopes for that full reprint are kind of getting a little greater, because they also reprinted this neon pink Splatoon Inkling girl, which was again part of the Splatoon 2 series, and I think they came in a 3-pack originally. I know there was a Splatoon 1 3-pack that had the boy, girl, and a little squid character, and I don't know if that releases a 3-pack in the US or if they were all sold individually, but there is I think it's a green dude and a little purple squid that is the same part of this set. So this one just kind of popped up on Amazon, and I got it for I think $14, and it was like reselling for $40 to $60 before that reprint. So I'm hoping they reprint the other ones, because I bought a couple of these as well, and I'll buy a couple more of whatever else they reprint. On the subject of Amiibos, after making that last video, and also having other people reach out to me and tell me how much they love Amiibos as well, man, how many times can I say the word Amiibo in this video? But I started going down the rabbit hole of doing what I did back in like 2014, which is go and look at auction sites and stuff and try to find them for like pennies on the dollar. Just people that are looking to get rid of them, and auctions that have kind of been skimmed over or not paid attention to. And so I ended up buying the original 3-pack of the Splatoon Amiibos, and I got these for like, I don't know, like a few bucks. And it was kind of interesting to see them. The first thing, when I got them and I unboxed them, my girlfriend looked and was like, oh, some new babies for you. And then she looked closer and was like, man, these are kind of ugly. And it's true, like these were one of the first series of Amiibos they did, and the quality back then was not great. And you can see all the seams and the plastic and stuff. This was before they really like tried to make them look more like little statues. But as a collector's item, like I think that's kind of neat. There's another version of this same character that I have inside that glass case, which is like a really good looking little miniature statue of this. And just having them side by side, I don't really want to take that one out. But seeing like the before and after to where they decided to put the money into making these little bad boys is kind of interesting. So happy that I picked that up. Also, the cheapest Amiibo series that there is to buy on the aftermarket. The cheapest Amiibos to buy in the aftermarket are definitely the Animal Crossing ones, because these ones never really sold well. I'm not sure. I think they sold decently, but Nintendo just produced so many of them that they ended up sitting on shelves for like years afterwards. I remember at one point they were even on Five Below during the pandemic. During that time, I was kind of stressed out about just everything, just like everyone else. The last thing I wanted to do was like invest money in figurines. But a couple years later, I'm buying them for a little bit less. And I've been scoring these guys on different auction sites. I just paid the price of shipping, because I think that the bid was at like 3 cents when I got this one. And I'm almost completed that whole series. You could look at the thumbnail. I don't have them all on the table here now. I didn't want to take up too much room, but I think there's like 16 or 17 in that set, and I'm just slowly accumulating all of them. I could, of course, just buy them all right now for like $5, $7 a piece, but I really just have fun like hunting for these auctions where I get them for like pennies on the dollar, literally. And a lot of times people will cancel those orders, and that's fine. But when they don't, it's cool. Okay. Enough about figures, guys. I, of course, did buy some games as well. And I guess one of these, this first one here, is not quite a game. It's just another collectible item. But I've still, as you can see behind me, been grinding on Xenoblade 3 just incessantly. And for the Xenoblade 2 and 3 special editions, which we're still waiting to see when they're going to ship out that Xenoblade 3 special edition that only a few people got. Luckily, I was one of them. But the 2 and 3 included a steelbook, whereas the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition that was released for the Nintendo Switch, for whatever reason, did not get a steelbook. But in, I think it was Korea, actually, they, for some reason, got a steelbook there. And so I went and bought that steelbook, and I sealed it up in plastic. But it's just a cool collector's item, and someday I think that when I have, I don't know, I have this like imagining of a future game shelf where I have the Xenoblade steelbooks lined up just for display, and it's cool to have the first one there as well. For right now, it's just sitting out in the open, but cool collector's item, and it's definitely, they put some quality into this. On the inside, there's a lot of embossing as well. It's definitely neat. This was like $40, way overpriced for a steelbook, but I love Xenoblade. Then, another modern title. One comment that a coworker made to me was like, he asked me, are you only going to talk about the Switch? Because I feel like I talk more in person about like retro stuff. I'm really into retro gaming, but as far as what people can relate to and what people are going to look at right now, I feel like it's usually modern stuff. So I have been talking more about modern items, and this is one of them. But it's also retro. The Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which I honestly forgot that I ordered. But it's a compilation of some really old Ninja Turtles games. Recently, they released Shredder's Revenge, which I've been playing on Game Pass. But that is kind of reminiscent of the arcade games that I grew up playing. And this is like a compilation that includes those arcade games as well as some older Game Boy games and Sega Genesis titles. And I think Super Nintendo as well, that I did not have a chance to play. But I had to pick this one up. It was like $40. I did forget I ordered it. But when it showed up, I was like, hey, that's kind of neat. Because it's a big part of my childhood. I can't tell you how many quarters I threw into that arcade machine as a kid. And it's really cool. It's something I imagine that I'll play with my future son, assuming that he likes video games. Then I went down the rabbit hole of buying, not quite out of FOMO, but a little bit out of FOMO. And this is not quite retro, but not modern either. And I'm talking about some titles for the Wii U and 3DS that are still very cheap to pick up, but I don't think they will be for very long. For those of you that don't know, Nintendo just is in the process of closing the eShop for both the 3DS and the Wii U. And what that means is, just like any console, when they take out your way to download any games from the online service, it becomes necessary to own the physical copies if you ever plan to play those games. Which might sound like, okay, fine, but if you look back at the retro market with consoles that never had online services, you realize that once that happens, or once people start desiring those games, the value for those games goes up exponentially. I think a really good example that people can all kind of relate to, at least maybe here on this channel, because I'm assuming most of you guys like Nintendo, is the GameCube. Try going back and buying any GameCube game and not paying a pretty penny. Recently, I wanted to get another copy of Mario Kart Double Dash, for example. That cost more than the Mario Kart that was released a few years ago, Mario Kart 8, which is still getting DLC. Mario Kart Double Dash goes for anywhere from $70 to $100, depending on the condition of the game. And I think I paid $60 because it was a friend of mine that I bought it off of. But I think that these games will definitely shoot up in value in the same respect, especially because these games are not going to be able to be played well on other hardware. Whereas like the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, you can emulate those systems to a certain degree on a PC and really actually get a better experience because you can bump up the resolution and stuff. Not that I condone that. I actually am not fond of emulation or pirating myself. But with the 3DS and the Wii U, they're very specific to the hardware. The 3DS, of course, had a 3D feature, but it also had a touchscreen and, a dual screen. And I don't think, I have seen people emulate those games on PCs, but to me, that's a very hollow and soulless experience. And I think that any diehard fan is going to always want this physical copy. The other cool thing about these games is that this was before they really started making patching games like a necessity. A lot of these games did get patches, but they're not like game-breaking patches. Like if you don't have the patch, what I mean, in the sense where like nowadays, if you buy a Nintendo Switch game, even as unfortunate as this is to say, a lot of those games are not complete on the cartridge. There's a very substantial size download that you have to get on day one, just so the game doesn't have like a terrible glitch that stops you from progressing. It's kind of become a business tactic of these companies to push out the software before it's fully complete to get into the marketing window that they want, to get the sales figures they desire. And as a result, like most of the games that you buy on shelves nowadays will not really be that playable on hardware 20 years from now, which is super sad. But on the bright side, with the retro stuff, they're pretty much there. Some of these titles that I picked up, I actually owned in their digital form, but I saw that they were either at the retail price still or below that. And again, I know for a fact these games are going to be worth much more later on. So I was like, you know what? Why not add a sealed copy of the collection? The first one, which I really recommend everyone get if they don't have already, and you can currently buy it for like $40 on Amazon, which is what I did here, for a brand new sealed copy, is Metroid Samus Returns. Recently, they released Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch, and that kind of brought a lot of attention to the Metroid series, but this was a remake of Metroid 2 that was on the Game Boy way back in the day. This was a reimagining of that game that they put on the 3DS, and it plays a lot like Dread, but I honestly enjoy it more. I think the 3D in this game really adds to the experience, and it's just such an atmospheric game. It's really ahead of its time in terms of like what the gaming world kind of wants now. We're seeing a lot more Metroidvania style games come back into the scene. This kind of missed the mark as far as like where it was marketed, because not a lot of people pick this game up, and I really think a few years from now it'll become more of a rare piece, at least for like the ones that are kept in good condition. If you look around online, you'll see a lot of like loose cartridges, beat up game cases, so it's always good, at least in my opinion, to snag yourself a nice sealed one and keep it in good condition, because these games are going to be worth a pretty penny. The next one is honestly not a great game that I would recommend anyone buy, but I love the Legend of Zelda series, and that is The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. And this was like $18 brand new sealed, So I was like, you know what, why not? I grabbed a sealed copy because again, I did own this game already, but I had a digital downloaded version of it. And technically, if you want to play this game, like let's imagine in the future there is no internet service for the 3DS, which is going to happen pretty soon. That's the next thing they're going to shut down. You will need 3 copies of this game to play the multiplayer version, which is actually like the only enjoyable way to play this game. It was a Zelda game, but it was designed to be played with 3 other people. And when it first released, you could go online and play with other people that had just picked the game up. But it didn't take very long for everyone to realize that this was not the best Zelda game, so that online community fell off pretty quick. So I guess my point is, like, I'll probably end up buying a 3rd copy at some point, so that just to have it, you know, in case my son ever wants, you know, I imagine a scenario where maybe I have a son and daughter, and we could all sit around and play Triforce Heroes. Really weird thing to try to future-proof for, but that's kind of how I am. So I grabbed a sealed copy. Maybe I'll use it someday. Maybe it'll sit on the shelf for 18 bucks. I don't really care. Another game I picked up was just a game that I never had originally on the 3DS, which was New Super Mario Bros. 2. Again, not the best in the New Super Mario Bros. Series, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it with the ones that are at now. I would probably just recommend picking up U Deluxe for the Switch. But I picked this up for 10 bucks. It was used on eBay. So again, you know, why not add it to the collection? I think all of these games will end up bumping up in value substantially, even the ones that are kind of mid. The next in the 3DS line was Pokemon X. And yeah, right now you can pick up a copy of Pokemon X anywhere from $30 to $60. I think I paid $25 for this one. But if you look back at the Pokemon series, they go up in value quite a bit. And a game in good condition, again, is always going to hold more value, especially in my collection where everything stays pristine. And it's not going to be played on any other hardware going forward in a better way, unless they remaster this game, which they eventually will 10 years from now. But added it to the collection, 25 bucks, why not? Now this last game is one that I've actually never played, or at least the last game for the 3DS, and that is Ever Oasis. But I saw so many people in its time when it was released talk about how great this was. From what I understand, it plays a lot like a Zelda game, but also has a lot of elements of like the Final Fantasy series, and even like Fable 3 in terms of how you build like a little town. And it's a dungeon crawler, like puzzle solving type game, where you also build a little town. And the art style is pretty cool. It's all chibi and stuff. I'm a big fan of just like Japanese looking games with anime stuff. So I picked this one up. I think this one was like the most expensive. It was like 50 bucks. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna have a chance to play it. I actually have just like a ton of JRPGs and other Japanese-esque games on the 3DS that I picked up because I like the box art, and I admittedly haven't opened any of them. So maybe this will be like a retirement game for me, but I thought it was pretty cool. And the other thing that I will mention is that when it comes to these niche games that nobody's ever heard of, especially the ones that fall into the category of like being a Japanese role-playing game, those are the ones that you see going for stupid amounts of money later on. I always like to give the example of Chrono Trigger, even though it's definitely like in its own league. But if you own a copy of Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo with the box, you're looking at thousands of dollars. Even if you were to own a sealed copy of Chrono Trigger, the remake that they put on the 3DS, still up there in terms of value, like up there, 4 figures. So always good to pick those games up, guys. If you leave them sealed, that's fine. They'll sit on your shelf. They'll gain value, guaranteed, almost guaranteed every time. So added it to the collection. Why not? Now, like I said, they're closing the 3DS eShop, but they're also closing the Wii U Eshop. And not a lot of people own a Wii U. You know, that's one of the reasons why I think Nintendo just looked at it and was like, who cares? But for that reason, I think these games will become a lot more rare in the future. Mostly just the console. Like, I think the console, a working console with a working gamepad, will become quite rare, almost like the Virtual Boy 20 years from now. Because a lot of those the ones that did get sold were just, you know, used by kids, beat to crap. Even finding one with a working battery is kind of hard to do. I replaced the battery in the one that I had multiple times before I got a battery that I had to get. It was like an aftermarket Chinese one before I could get it to hold a charge for more than a few hours. So it's going to be difficult to find one of those that works later on. But the games I picked up for that, actually, at least 2 of them, you can currently buy on the Nintendo Switch. So these ones aren't going to be rare, but Pikmin 3 and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Now, like I said, both these games are on the Nintendo Switch currently, so you can pick those up that way if you have a Switch, like, if you care. But they go for like 50 or 60 bucks. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, interestingly enough, released on the Wii U back in like, I don't know, I think it was like 2013. And it was a $50 retail title that was then re-released on the Switch for $60. And they added like hardly anything. They added a Funky Kong mode, which is just like, it's just like the worst tacked on like little thing they could have possibly done. It's just a little fast-paced like cheat mode basically. But if you want to pick it up on the Wii U right now, I picked this up for like, I think I paid $8 for it on the Wii U. In relatively good condition. So I was like, you know, I never played this game. If I want to play a game like this, I generally like to do it on the original hardware, just because it feels more authentic that way. $8, why not? Kind of the same deal with Pikmin 3, except even more so, because originally when this game was released, it had a ton of really good usage of the gamepad and stylus for the Wii U. The Wii U was actually like, it was almost like a consoleized version of the Nintendo DS, as far as I'm concerned, because you were using like 2 screens the same way, except one was your TV and one was a pad you held in your hand, and there's a lot of touch controls and stuff involved. So this game utilized a lot of those features, and while they did port it to the Nintendo Switch, I think that the authentic, original way to play with those controls is going to be a lot more novel of an experience. So I think it was $12 for this one. You know, again, I said why not. Now, the last thing I picked up, which I'm just going to add to this video because it was August, was the Nintendo Switch OLED model, the Splatoon 3 Special Edition. And I had a whole nother video on that I did on the release day for this game. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. But I'm still loving the console. I think it's the best looking Switch model they've ever done. And yeah, was pretty hyped to have gotten that. Wow. You know, it's funny. Now that I've gone over all these things, I realize just how crazy of a month August was in terms of pickups for me. I'm usually not this compulsive in my collecting, but something about like the combined FOMO of the Wii U and 3DS eShop, along with all these deals that I saw, and like Amiibo just coming back in the scene, really just brought out the kid in me, and I guess I went a little bit hard. But no regrets. So yeah, guys, didn't mention this before, but if you're new to the channel, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe if you like videos like this. We do a lot of other things here on this channel. This week, I've actually taken a week off from, this is gonna sound like a complete side tangent, but it's not, trust me. I've taken a whole week off from going to the gym. Normally I train about 6 days a week, up to 3 hours a day. Anywhere from like 15 to 18 hours is what I spend in the gym on a weekly basis. So, I guess, wow, did my math wrong there. I almost spent 24 hours on some weeks. But I took a whole week off after getting a bunch of tattoo work done and some stuff reworked, just to let all that stuff heal. But coming into the next week, starting Tuesday, I will be back in the gym, back lifting, and having a lot less time for content creation. So another reason why I've been posting videos every 1 or 2 days. But I will be posting some videos about just, you know, ways that people can help with their nutrition, ways that you can get into the bodybuilding, or just trying to get into shape a little bit. Because I think that if you're here on this channel, you're probably a lot like I was, in the sense where you're very introverted and you might not have a ton of confidence in your real life avatar. Let's put it that way. So here on this channel, I really want to kind of reach a very niche demographic of people like myself and inspire them to really just love themselves just as much as they love the things that they're obsessed with. And I think that with time, you can learn to train your mind to apply the same level of obsession that drives you to, like we have here, buy all of these, video games that may or may not just sit on shelves, figurines, whatever might have you, and apply that to something that's actually going to discipline you in a really positive way. So if you're interested in stuff like that, feel free, subscribe, drop a comment on what your goals might be. Would love to be able to help other people in that aspect. Also, this week, guys, will be the start of the new Discord server that my girlfriend actually has salvaged from one that she was using for something completely differently. But we've reworked the whole server, and it's going to go live starting today. And that's just going to be a bunch of general chat involving things that are video game related. I'm going to post stuff for collectors, pre-orders that you might want to jump on, deals that I see online. That'll be a whole chat folder in itself. Also, the folder that you'll see called Hyperbolic Time Chamber is where I would like everyone to share their progress or experiences in terms of what they're doing in the fitness world, and I can drop in, give you any advice that you might want. I would really like for that to grow into something that we can all learn from. It's gonna be really only positive vibes kind of group. So anything that comes in there that's trolling, I might immediately ban you, or I might humor it for a minute before I ban you, but hopefully only people that really take that seriously or want to learn will hop in. But it is open to everybody. I'll drop a link in the description below. Shoot me a request and I'll let you join in. No questions asked, maybe just a little back and forth. We'll get to know each other. It'll also be the place where I coordinate events for Splatoon 3, other multiplayer games, mostly for the Nintendo Switch, but also for PC and Xbox. So yeah, glad to get that started. Hopefully some of you guys will join me there. And I guess that pretty much wraps it up. It's about to be 105 degrees today, so I pretty much shut everything down. I'm gonna turn the fans on, get into some Xenoblade, and hope I don't sweat to death. But for you guys, I hope you have an amazing day. Keep it nerdy. Otaku out.